All right. My name is Andy. I thank you for taking the time out of your day to come to the TaxScribe webinar. I really appreciate it. Um, I'm gonna be your host, and I'm gonna introduce the speakers as we go through this TaxScribe webinar. The total webinar we're shooting for is somewhere around 45, 50 minutes. And I know we started a little late because I wanted to have people to join. Um, Here's some of the rules on a Zoom webinar. All of the attendees have been muted. So you cannot ask a question, but there is a chat where you can ask a question, and we totally recommend it. We have reasoned employees uh, who are manning the chat to answer any question live. And also at the end of this, we're going to have a question and answer period. So let me go through quickly the agenda. I'm your host. I'm in the middle of speaking, and then I'm going to hand it over to three different speakers. One of them is Jennifer from Whitfield County, and she's going to go for about 8 to 10 minutes. And then she'll hand it back to me, and then I'll have Chad from Orange County, and he's going to go for 8 to 10 minutes. And then I was going to have Chester, which wasn't on the agenda, but I felt it was necessary. He's our director of client experience, and he's going to go through for just a couple of minutes on onboarding and support and training and things like that. And then we're going to have a question and answer period for about 10 minutes, which should be about the time. So that's the rules. Hopefully you can find the chat so you can say some stuff in there, and you can start to ask the questions now. And then before I hand it over to our first speaker, I want to do a little bit about Reason Consulting and TaxScribe. This is not a sales pitch. This is not a webinar where I'm going to be doing a sales pitch about Reason. This is an educational piece. As a matter of fact, I don't know what Jennifer and Chad are going to even say. These are two of our new customers, and I said, hey, I want to have a webinar where you guys tell your experience, warts and all. And I've not even asked, I've not coached, so for in that case, to me, this is like a true educational webinar. And so, all right, enough on that part. So Reason Consulting, just real quick, we're in 16 states. We build products for assessors to make your lives better. These are software products. We have a whole slew of products, and one of them is TaxScribe. And then on TaxScribe, I'm going to just real quick on it. We're in 4 states now with TaxScribe. We're in Michigan, Louisiana, North Carolina, and Georgia. And we're expanding. So these are the first 4 states as we started to expand. We've been asked to build this out in other states, and we've been looking at which states to go into next. Our plan is over the next 18 months to be national with this. And the reason for it is we've built a really, really terrific product that's starting to get a lot of notice. All right, so now this webinar is from the government perspective. So you're hearing from your peers and how they're using this product. But TaxScribe is a data platform that allows you to manage and communicate all this paperless forms. And you definitely have a management platform and a way to communicate with the filers. But the secret sauce in what we did is that we built a management communication platform for the filer. Now, you're not really going to see it from their perspective in this webinar, but imagine that when we first started to build this, we looked into, well, why did TurboTax take off so well? And although TurboTax is, if you remember, I'm old enough now that I had to go to the library and pick up paper forms and fill out paper forms. When TurboTax came in, their mass adoption now has the IRS opening less mail and typing less things into their version of a CAMA. And so it's terrific for them. but TurboTax really built it for the filer, for people like you and I. And because of that, they had massive adoption. And that's really what you want. And so we looked at it the same way and said, let's build a product that had the filer in mind so that they had a delightful experience. And we really wanted to make it easy. Let's say I had a roofing company, Andy's Roofing, and I'm a roofer, I'm not an accountant, where it's easy for me to understand and file and make sure that I do it. But we really wanted to attract the accounting firms, the large national brands, things like that. So we'd have massive adoption, and it's really starting to work. All right, enough on that. Let me see. All right, now the last thing I want to say as a precursor, there's 4 different states. When North Carolina shows their interface, you're going to see such crazy things as extensions and IPP, which if you're a different state like Georgia, you're going to say, well, we don't have extensions in Georgia, and that's true. The platform that we built, the management and communication platform, is the same, but we do adopt it per state. We know you have different forms and you have different things you're interested in. Those things we make it so that you love it on that end. All right, so that's enough on me, enough on the reason and all that kind of stuff. I am now going to hand it over to our first speaker. All right, I should have been there. All right, so here's our first speaker, Jennifer Jones. I'm gonna embarrass her a little bit and actually read her bio. So don't this is something that she didn't have a bio, and I was like, no, you need a bio. You're important. So let's do this. And so I'm gonna embarrass her by reading it out. All right, she started in Whitfield County in 1988. She's the first woman to have her Appraiser 4 designation in the county. With a background in computer science, Jennifer was drawn to fairness and taxation and started her career with the tax commissioner's office and migrated to real property and then the personal property as the manager. Now, she's in Georgia, so I put a little map where Whitfield County is in Georgia, population 102,864, and their CAMA is WinGap. And it's important to know the CAMA and that we'll integrate with whatever CAMA. So if you're, if you happen to, you're going to find out that Chad from Orange County is going to be Farragut within CPTS is there. And then we just got notification that we have a customer onboarding that'll be Tyler. So that's, anyway, we integrate with anything like that. Enough on me and all that stuff. Jennifer, I'm going to hand it over to you. Please take it away.
Hello, everyone.
All right, so you can share your screen.
Let's see. Am I there?
Yes, we could see it.
Okay.
Let me see if you could do the if you do it's the full screen would be in, this is PowerPoint and it's presentation layout, I think is what it is, right? No, it's gosh, I haven't used, no, don't hit share.
Yeah, don't hit it.
I think at the top up there is a full screen or slideshow. There you go, slideshow. And then do from beginning or there you go.
Boom.
Boom, perfect. Thank you.
Boom. Okay. Hello, everybody. I'm Jennifer. I'm in Whitfield County in Georgia, and we've been using TaxScribe this year for our first year. And I have to say, we really love it. We've had a great response from the taxpayers. A lot of people have called in and expressed how much they really love the simplicity, the ease of using it, and being able to communicate within TaxScribe with us and see the information that they have, go back and look at the information if they want to, being able to download the things that they submit. It's just, we've had a really good response this year, especially with business owners. So that's been a big plus for us. So I just wanted to give a little bit of information about what we were doing, how we were doing it. If you go to whitfieldassessor.com, and I'll I've got a brief thing I can show you how, like if you go to our website with fieldassessor.com, we have a link that's called personal property e-filing. If you click that link, it'll take you straight to the filing process. You can search by your name or an account number or your physical address. One of the biggest benefits that we see, we get lots of calls every year about, well, I want a copy of my return from last year. Well, with this option, they can themselves log back in and go and get their previous year's copies of their returns if they submitted them. So we don't have to go through and provide that information anymore. When they're filing the returns, it updates them every step of the process. When they submit the return, they get an email that tells them it was submitted. When we start reviewing their returns, it'll send them an email and tell them that we're reviewing it. There's ways for us to communicate within the process where we can send them a message and they can message us back if they have questions or need any kind of additional information. They have a return process, which we've used several times this year so far, where a taxpayer would go in and submit the return and then forget, oh, I forgot to attach something. So they would call and say, hey, can you send that back? We need to attach something. So we'll just go in, hit return, and it sends it back to them, and then they can upload whatever and send it right back. So that's very beneficial for them. They love that aspect of it too. You can bulk assign things to your staff. We download all of our options right now, all the forms and stuff. We are working on the integration part. WinGap is actively working on that. We've been talking back and forth about the fields that they're working on integrating so far. And it's everything so far except for the Schedule A and the Schedule B part. We haven't conquered that part, but we are discussing that. I know everybody this year has had a lot of problems with postage and stuff. So the postage part is a big problem with TaxScribe. You know, people submit, and you don't have to worry about the mail, stamping, late mail. Like on April 1st this year, we had like 5 totes of mail. We were overwhelmed with mail. So it was crazy. And we're still scanning mail. Just there's a lot of it. And I'm sure everybody else is having that same problem. Vendors can use it if you have people that do returns for you outside of your office. They can log in and do it. You can set your cutoff date for the ability for people to file. Like if you want to cut your date off April 1st. We decided to leave ours till June the 1st because of the free portability to file up to that date. I'm sure other counties have different reasons or dates that they would want to set that to, and you can set your date. And you can upload any amount of documents in any format, which is another beneficial thing. Let's see. Last year we had like 284 file for businesses. This year we've had 447 so far. So that is a big improvement for us is online filing. And we had one lady call that was filing in North Carolina using TaxScribe, and she was able to file for her customers on TaxScribe through Whitfield County using all her same logon information. And she was very happy to be able to do that. And she worked for an accounting firm. She was very pleased of the ease and the ability to use it in several different states. We've had a couple of accounting firms that were doing the same thing. And next year, it will be like pre-populated. So whatever information we have in WinGap, like printing on your forms, it will show up in TaxScribe. So they would just have to go in and maintain the filings, just like if it was a piece of paper, to be able to submit. So let's see if I can find my little screen again for my, I'll show y'all the way. And this is what ours looks like right now. This is where we receive our filings. When we get them, they will have all the information that the taxpayers put in. Here, it will show the status, whether it's approved. Delivered is when we receive it. Inadmissible would be if they file it and let's say it's filed twice, or they filed a business on a boat return or something. That's when we would use inadmissible, and you have the opportunity to send them a message and explain to them why it was inadmissible. In review means that we've looked at it once and started our review, but for some reason we haven't completed. And the return would be when you send it back to somebody for more information. And we have some, because these are all the people that you can assign to. We have a list. And then it'll retain all your years, so you could go back and look at the previous years if you wanted. It's all the different types of forms. And let's see. I don't think anybody, I hope nobody's filed a late Freeport, but they have. Lucky me. So it dates and timestamps, which is also a benefit. Let's see, I'm pretty sure I've assigned some to me. Let's see. We have all these assigned to me. So it shows, if I go just to my dashboard, it'll show me the ones that I have delivered, the ones I've completed, the ones I'm still working on. And then this little bubble will show if you have communicated with the taxpayer or not. If you have sent them a message, you can look back at your message. And I'm going to, let's say I'll click this. And then this will show the persons. If I click Start Review, it will show all the information. You can click View PDF. And then it'll show their forms, all the information that they added. Oh. And you can download that. Let's see. Then you can assign your users here. All your users. I got some TaxScribe users. They're helping. I wish they were. I do want to say that all the TaxScribe people have been very, very helpful in getting onboarded. They've been very responsive to emails, all the messages that we've sent, any questions we had, any concerns, things we might want to change, update, etc. They've been very helpful. So I can only say good things. We've had a couple snafus, like there was a calculation on the front of the form, which we got fixed. I mean, there was, let's see, we had someone that filled out a Freeport application where they couldn't submit it, which was some kind of technical thing. Didn't have nothing to do with me. I had no clue. But they got it fixed that same day. There is a button on the screen. I didn't show y'all that, but there is a button on the screen where they can reach out to TaxScribe directly if they have a technical issue, or they can reach out to us. They've just been very responsive. All the taxpayers that had any kind of issue got them resolved either the same day or the next day. So it was, nobody has said anything bad so far. So we're excited. We're excited. We're excited for integration too. So that's all I have. So I'm going to give it back to Andy.
Thank you, Jennifer. I really appreciate it. Like I said, unscripted. So the one thing I did want to highlight, which I'm super exciting to hear, was we're building a national e-file. We're expanding into every state. You're already seeing we have customers that are using it in North Carolina, and with the same login, they're like, "Oh, I can file for my businesses in Georgia," and they're already starting to do that. So, and And so that was really a great shout out of why there should be a national one. All right, so without further ado, let me share my screen and let's go down, and I'm going to read and embarrass Chad now. So, all right. So now this is with Orange County. This is our second speaker. Chad is with Orange County. He's the deputy tax assessor in the tax administration. Graduated with an MPA and started working with the McDowell County Tax Office as a real property appraiser. Moved to Orange County in 2017. He got his PPS designation from the IAAO in 2019, and as his assessor certification, as well as real and personal property appraiser 2 certifications from North Carolina Department of Revenue. Orange County is in between. Let me see. It's near Raleigh Durham, right to the west of Raleigh Durham, right? That if I remember my geography correct, and it's like North Carolina just booming, right? So like all these places are really just starting to go big. The population is 148,000. Their CAMA is Farragut, which, like I said, is important because no matter what CAMA you're on, we're going to make sure that it works and that it syncs, because that's a big pain. All right, so you don't want to hear from me. I'm going to hand it over to Chad. And he also had some people, some staff that he wanted to hear from as well. So I'm going to hand it over to Chad if you want to share your screen.
Yeah, I don't have anything to share, so it's going to be me.
Perfect.
As far as location wise, yeah, we're right beside Raleigh, Durham. We have Chapel Hill. That's a good way of knowing where we're at. We have the Tar Heels, and yeah, I do have a couple of the listers here on the call with us. So if there's any questions that come in that they may be able to answer a little bit better than I can, got them here to be able to do that. So with some of what I'm going to say, it's a little bit North Carolina specific, but at the same time, it's kind of like it's rules and regulations that we had to kind of look at and figure out and be ready for. So even with your being in a different state, Michigan, Georgia, wherever, it's good to kind of like prepare and look ahead and kind of think about the stuff other than signing up for the product here. So with North Carolina, the General Assembly put in place GS 310.1. And what that did is it put two things in place. One being that the North Carolina Department of Revenue can establish like rules and guidelines for any company that wants to do online listing. And so they put together this little information packet, a couple of pages, and said, if you want to do this in North Carolina, you have to meet these guidelines. And right now, I think there's only 4 companies that have met those guidelines, and the Department of Revenue has actually approved them to operate in North Carolina. The second part of that is that they also said that if you as a county want to do this, you have to get a resolution passed by your Board of County Commissioners. So, you know, it just, if you wait until like December to try to do this, and then you realize like, oh, hey, I've got to get this done by the Board of Commissioners, that kind of thing, you know, you're probably not going to get that resolution in place before listing. So just kind of think of the things that you might also need to do. As far as us actually like the adoption, signing the contract, going live, all that kind of stuff, we first started talking and watching demos, all that kind of stuff, I think is around June 2023. And if I remember right, one of the questions that I'd ask Andy at that point was, you know, how long does go live take? And he had told me that they had a county do it in December, but please don't do that. And I said, don't worry, we'll get, if we decide to do this, we'll get it done way before December. So he got the proposal to us in August. But by the time we had IT to approve it and finance to approve it and go through our legal department and all that, it ended up being like late November. So technically we did not do it in December, but it was close there. So even with us being that well into the system, into the time, we did get it live by January. Everything was up, running. Anybody that went to the TaxScribe website was able to submit their information. There were a few little issues still, like with syncing and all that kind of stuff, but we continued to work on that, and it didn't stop the customer, the taxpayer, from being able to submit their stuff to us. As far as like actually submitting tickets, any kind of issues, all that stuff, I completely agree with Jennifer. As far as like anything that we've submitted to Reason, we get just almost immediately get something back from them. They've been really good on the customer service side of it. The only issue that you kind of see is, we have multiple vendors, right? You have the Farragut with the billing and collections, and then you have TaxScribe with Reason. So if it's a issue that has to kind of like go between the two of them, that might take a little bit longer, because it's not always like very apparent to us on our side, like which of the vendors is responsible for fixing which issue. But other than that, it's been really, really good, really quick. After we went live, Chester, he sat down with us and essentially let us fuss, complain, talk about whatever we wanted to, and spent probably an hour just kind of going through any issue that we had. Just at no point tried to take off and run or anything. He just listened to the entire time. So as far as like making changes and all that kind of stuff, and this will be another North Carolina specific thing probably, but our billing and collections vendor Farragut, they like to do user groups, and that might be something that would be good if you know multiple counties that are using this system that are also using your CAMA system. And essentially what that is they just say, like, everybody that's using our billing and collection system, we meet once a week, go over tickets, go over issues, any problems we have. We vote on enhancements, all this kind of stuff. But they also like to break out into smaller subject matter expert groups. So like if they decide they want to change the way they process watercraft, they'll have 2 or 3 counties that'll come together and say, okay, well, we know that you are good at this thing. Can y'all meet and go over this stuff? Well, they've done that with TaxScribe. So there's a user group within our system that's specifically for TaxScribe. And they meet, I think, once a month to kind of go and say, here's what we'd like to see. We don't like this color on this button. We want it this color. And, just any kind of changes like that for like the roadmap going forward for what the counties are looking to have fixed or changed for that. As far as like the system itself, me and Jennifer had spoke a little bit ahead of time to kind of like make sure we didn't overlap each other too much. So I think she did a good job on a quick showing of what the system looks like. I did ask some of the listers kind of like what they thought that the biggest time savers were. And I didn't really think about this, but it's for them, they were saying it is like opening, sorting, stamping, all the mail that comes in, instead of dealing with 5 totes or how much ever you had mentioned, you remove a lot of that. And so you don't have to open up, sort it, all that. It just flows into the system. So you're saving a lot of time there. I heard that there's not a lot of, or some of the other counties don't have extensions. With North Carolina, you can say the listing period is January, but if the taxpayer comes and says, hey, we can't meet that deadline, can we have a little bit more time? Then we can extend it up through April 15th. And that's another part of the whole getting the board adopt the resolution, all that kind of stuff. But so we get extension requests and we get listings both submitted to us through TaxScribe. And that's been a big time saver too, is receiving those extension requests electronically instead of getting them in paper and having to respond back and email back and all that kind of stuff. It's just, it comes in, you hit the button and you're good. We are still fairly new to the system. I mean, we just went live this year. So as far as actually reviewing the listings that come in, we're still spending a lot of time going back and reviewing the stuff, looking at the stuff, making sure everything looks right. So there's not really been that time savings there because we're still spending as much time looking at the file that's coming electronically as paper, because we don't know yet for sure if there's anything broke, right? So we want to make sure everything looks good. So maybe another year or two down the road, we can kind of like calm that back a little bit and save some more time in that manner. But that's, for right now, it's mostly just opening the mail and all the sorting that has really saved us a lot of time, effort, and yeah. So that is all that I immediately had to speak about. So I'll turn it back to you too, Andy.
Awesome. Thank you, Chad. I really appreciate it. So here's the things I heard. One was, and this is for Adam. We tried not to have it close so late in the year. We had been working on it since June to close earlier in the year, Adam. Yet still, it closed in November and we were able to make it happen. And we've done it before, of course, for other people in December, they wanted to, but I do not, please, if you're listening to this, please, let's try to do it. Because Adam did not send me an edible arrangement, and thanks for that. Just saying, but it's not, Adam, it's not my fault. See, anyway. And then the other thing I heard was that user groups was something that that we should be doing, or we should possibly get on board. Was that what I heard, right, Chad?
Yeah, I mean, it's a lot. The user groups for the individual for TaxScribe would be good, but then also like if you have multiple counties that are using the same camera system, same billing collection system, it's good to have them do together so that way everything's kind of syncing the same way.
Well, okay. So funny as that may be, and I'm gonna speak for Chester real quick, is that he's like, hey, I'm gonna do a user group from some of our other products, and we're having our first CAVS user group very soon. And so like that's something that we're gonna start doing, is these like user group type thing. It may not be as often as once a week. That may be a little much, but certainly a couple times a year have like user groups and on our different products and whatnot. Okay, then to remind everybody, in the at the bottom is a little thing that says Q&A, and you can submit a question. And so right now we have people answering questions live, whatnot. If you want to submit a question, it's there. It's at the Q&A thing at the bottom. All right, so now I'm going to share my screen and I'm going to embarrass Chester now. All right. So Chester has been the senior product manager for TaxScribe for over 7 years and a key player in onboarding all clients to the TaxScribe platform. And now Chester ensures government users and their taxpayers are top priority and is in charge of all training, onboarding, and support. So, so what that means is not only for people like Jennifer and Chad and their staff and all the other people that are in TaxScribe, like government side, but also your filers. So when your filer, like someone has a question, they'll submit a question through, and then like Chester's on it. Like, oh, so like Acme Roofing, hey, where did my form go? And I think Chester might even go through a scenario that happened that someone reached out and that turned into something kind of cool in Whitfield, hopefully. Recent consulting, blah, 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 blah. All right, I'm gonna hand it over to you, Chester. And you have a couple minutes. Yes, thank you.
All right, thank you, Andy. And thank you, Jennifer and Chad. It's been great to hear feedback. Moving from the senior product manager to onboarding has been a shift because I'm used to working with Matt and Adam on a development side for the application. But now we have Dan, who's been awesome. He's the product manager now for the application. But hearing what you two shared just shows me what we're doing and also the response times, because we have an SLA, just for everybody on the call. when a taxpayer contacts us or you contact us, that we try to get back to you within an hour. But I actually try within 15 minutes, especially depending on what the issue is. That way you can get back up and running and back to your day. Hearing about what Jennifer and Chad shared is what we embody. And a part of TaxScribe is support. So it's not an application suite where you subscribe and then we abandon you. You have me as your point of contact, as well as Andy. I'll be your guy for the onboarding to make sure if you need integration, we'll work with the technical team, also for support. So you at the county don't really have time to help taxpayers with technical issues. And that's why we actually have a help desk. And the email is hello@taxscribe.com. The taxpayer sends an email there. It goes into a queue and we pick it up. We work with the taxpayer directly. So if the taxpayers are used to calling you, they can just send an email and then we'll work with them directly. And then we also work with you as our actual client. So we have two clients. We have you as a direct client, the county user, and then we have the taxpayers, which are our extended clients. And then, as you know, every taxpayer is different. So depending on the issue, sometimes we'll even perform a remote session where we'll schedule a time with the taxpayer and just walk through with them on their computer to see what the issue is, because not everybody can use email, depending on the taxpayer. So we go that far to make sure every taxpayer in your county that are using an application is supported. And then also I hear Jennifer talk about the North Carolina taxpayer that found Whitfield. That's also been for Durham and OC, because I help manage the support desk. The moment that we went live, taxpayers and I'll use Durham. I don't know if anybody from Durham's on the call, but the Durham was, we work with you to make these little slips that you can print and put in with your paper listings that you ship out to the taxpayers. And Durham didn't get a chance to print theirs yet. And as soon as the first hit, they already had lots of listings. And they were a brand new client. And it was because taxpayers who love using the application, go to taxscribe.com and see what other new counties have signed up. So that's also a way to continue for adoption, because as soon as all the counties went live, if it was a CPA that submits for Mecklenburg, also submits for OC and Durham, they'll normally go back to the taxscribe.com and they'll see, okay, OC's here now, effective January 1st. So is Durham. And as a CPA firm or any user of TaxScribe, you don't have to create an account for OC, create an account for Whitfield, create an account for Met, create an account for Durham. That same username and password for application, you can submit across the counties. And so the taxpayers are definitely making use of that. And then also, as Chad talked about earlier, and Jennifer has been doing this with us all going through via email, is the application isn't owned or ran by just one county. It's shared among all the counties. So I recently met with Chad and his team. And Chad, I didn't get a chance to get you updated, but I met with Dan, who's our PM, and we went over the list from you and your team, and we're going to work on roadmapping all those items. So I'll send you an email about which ones and when it will deploy, when we can test together. But a part of working with us, we'll make sure that any changes or refinements that are needed in the application, that we'll work with the PM team. We'll get those changes into our test environment. We'll test internally to make sure they work, and then we'll contact you. We'll do some user testing because, hey, Chad, is this what you wanted? Hey, Jennifer, is this what you wanted? And then when you all sign off on those changes, we'll push them live. And typically, whatever OC needed, all the other counties probably needed. And the same thing with Jennifer. Jennifer being our first Georgia client, she's really helping me refine the app for future Georgia clients, because Jennifer is using the application every day. And so any refinements that are needed or updates can already be there. And so that's a part of the continued process to make sure the application is working for you and your taxpayers. And throughout the whole onboarding experience, once you start on, we work with your IT team. So if you're not technical, don't worry about it. You know, we have a really good tech team here. We'll work with your tech person directly. We'll work with you. We'll meet with your teams to go over requirements. We'll do demos. We do training. So we'll train you and your entire staff multiple times to make sure everybody has it down. And then we have user guides online as well. So that way the taxpayer, if the application is pretty straightforward, but everybody might need help every once in a while. And so we have user guides. So that way the taxpayer can see step by step on how to accomplish tasks in TaxScribe. The same applies for the county. Even though it's pretty straightforward, we also have a user guide for the county side. So as a county user, especially if you have new employees that join, you may not have time to train them. So if that's the case, you can always contact us. We can do a training session with that new employee or a refresher for your team. But then if you need them on immediately, you can just send them the link for the user guide. They can see the step-by-step instructions and then learn how to use the application. And if you run into anything on your end, whether it's refinement, a feature request, a bug, no matter what it is, you contact us. We'll work with you, your team, or your taxpayers to make sure those get accomplished. And that's all I have for now.
Okay. So I'm gonna put a little flavor on this. So how serious does Chester take any kind of help desk question, whether it's a government or a filer, right? I'll just tell you, sometime in January, I reached out like, hey, Chester, can we do it? And he's like, I'm busy doing customer. I'm like, wow, okay. I mean, this guy really takes it seriously. So, but what I that was just a joke, but the serious part of it is, you have a person, you have and then he's a team behind him, but he's the interface and he takes it super seriously, whether you or your staff has an issue or it's your filer, because you gotta remember, you gotta delight the filers to adopt it, because what you want is less mail and less typing in your CAMA and things like that. And so that all goes with like going on that side. Anyway, blah, 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 blah. Okay. I see and the other part, so I like training, onboarding, making sure your staff is comfortable with it. And then there are issues that are going to come up. Things happen. Every tax season, there's something comes up. And then it's how quickly can the business respond to make sure that it gets resolved and everybody's happy, because it is tax season. And we're like, this is something we take super seriously because of all that. All right, so it's 2:48 and we're now migrating into the question and answer portion. All right, so I'm not sure, Chad, if you're seeing this, but there was a question for you.
Yeah.
This is for Chad. Can you give me a brief description on how to review a business listing in North Carolina?
Yep. So we do this. Right. So essentially what Jennifer showed, it's the same basic dashboard there. I see it. It looks pretty much the same as what she was showing. The only thing that I kind of noticed was we have different forms. We just have listing and we have an extension where she had multiple different things there. But whenever you're, as far as all the different stuff, it all looked the same. The unread messages, that's actually one of the things that we kind of brought up with Chester is we think that it needs to be more pronounced. Like if we receive something back from Walmart here, it'll say 1 right there, but we don't really like get a notification. We don't get like an email from them saying, hey, you have this thing you need to check. So, that's one of the points we brought up. But whenever you want to just view the listing, you can just go straight in, has everything there. Then you can do all the return delivered. You can tell it that you don't want to accept it, or you can sync it. And if you sync it, then that goes ahead and sends it over to the CAMA system. And you can see here at the top, they do have production and they do have test. So you can do it as a test environment so that you can go in and kind of like play around with it and see what all you have going on. So
So yeah, Chad, you were in an approved one. So the Walmart had already been approved, and that's why it gave you the option to sync it to the CAMA.
Yeah.
But if you scroll down, let me see if there's one.
The inadmissible.
Oh no, you can go to in review. Let's go to the one in review, and there is a note. You can see so for the question, so this one's in, you can see the note. This one's just in testing, where it was a test message back and forth. And so I'm sorry, Chad, but I think this would shows the different buttons and whatnot.
Yep.
So yeah, you can approve and return and make inadmissible, and then send notes back to the filer. There's two ways to communicate. One is when the filer files, they're going to want to know that it's been delivered, and they were going to want to know if it's been approved and those kinds of things. And so that's one kind of communication to the filer. And then the other kind of file message, and you saw it in the chat, is only government initiated. So Chad's team or Jennifer and her team could go, oh, hey, you forgot the receipts or something, and send a note, and then the filer can like, oh, I got a note, and they'll get it as an email, because or also in their application they have a management system, and they'll see that they got a note, and they can see it there, and they can respond back and fix it. And the whole point of that is it shortens the window of mailing things back and forth, which could take weeks, into hopefully hours. And then it delights the filer, like, oh, I had a problem and I was able to fix it. I was able to know what's going on. And you're communicating in two different ways. And that's really kind of special. Okay, so there was another question. Let me see.
It was
I don't know.
Kayla. She was next. I can take that one, Andy.
Please, Chester.
Kayla, so your question is, are you able to put a restriction on individual address reported, such as rejecting certain phases in the address line, such as various or multiple? So I assume, well, let me go over the process, and this might answer your question. So on the TaxScribe business side, which is the taxpayer interface, the tax roll, all of those listings, which has the basic header information, the business name, address, phone number, that comes from your camera system. For instance, for Jennifer, her export came out of WinGap, which is who she uses, and then for Chad, he uses NCPTS. So if you want to restrict what we display to the taxpayer, you can only export records that omit various, if that's what you're referring to. But if you're asking if the taxpayer starts a listing from scratch, for instance, and they put in 123 Various Street, which I think maybe what you're referring to, currently there isn't any restriction. So for instance, if Chester, who lives in your county, he doesn't start from the tax roll, which is based on your data. He just starts a brand new listing from scratch. Maybe he's a new business. He can put in Chester's Painting Company and 123 Various. He cannot put in multiple addresses, but he can put in any street address he wants. But if you have like an issue in your county where there's a repeat offender, where they are always submitting various or not actual addresses, we could definitely work with your team and hear the specific cases and see what we can do to remedy that issue.
Okay.
Want to take John Snyder's question? Who do we
Yes.
contact to get more
I'll share my screen. I'll share my screen, which is, oh, here it is. I'll share my screen. So it's real simple. It's real simple. There's me and there's Dottie. There's my phone number and whatnot. You can always reach out to contact or help or anything like that. It'll get back to me at some point. But there's my phone number and whatnot. You see, there was someone had asked a question to me, and maybe Jennifer from Whitfield, you can answer this one. has the experience, what was the experience communicating with taxpayers? Like, is there any, like, is there, what's the, yeah, I'm just throwing that out there. Like, is that, I mean, that's a new feature for you because usually it's just been paper.
Yes, yes. Now we did try a smaller version of online filing previously, and it done okay. It was a little difficult for taxpayers because it wasn't very streamlined. But with TaxScribe, we've only had rave reviews. We had one lady call Shannon one day a couple of times, and by the end of the day, she was like, "Oh, I love you. This is just so great. I'm so glad you are doing this." And we have a couple of companies, that file like 75 returns within our county for local business. They're very excited to be able to use the system, because when they were doing paper, they would bring in a stack 2 foot high, like of paper, and they would have all their schedules and all their information, and they print it, they bring a copy for us to stamp. And with this system, they don't have to do that because they get an email when it's filed. And then when we work it, they get an email. And then when it's completed, they get an email. So they know that it has been received, and a lot of people really panic about the Freeport. So that's been very helpful too on the Freeport side, because a lot of people want to make sure that that gets in timely, and because they don't want to be late, because they don't want to miss their exemption or a portion of their exemption. So it's, like I said earlier, we really haven't had anybody have any kind of negative yet that they have voiced that we have heard. Everybody has had a positive response so far. So it's been really nice, really nice.
Awesome. So if you're not from Georgia, you may not be aware, but like I said, the platform has a communication and management platform, and then we take your forms and make them paperless, right? And so in Georgia, there's the P, the A, the M, and the Freeport form, and those are the 4 that they wanted paperless. They will also do Homestead as well, but those are the 4 that Jennifer wanted paperless. And so they all have their own complications and whatnot. And then you saw from Chad, his was different because they had extensions, and which was not something in other states and whatnot. So the platform is something with a lot of features and functionality, and then we can customize it per state and the forms that are there. All right, so we're coming up to time, and I don't think, if there are any other questions, you can always just reach out to me, or Dottie or Chester, anybody that you've reached out to in Reason before. I want to thank you for your time, for coming to the TaxScribe webinar. I really appreciate it. If you want a demo, if I've demoed to a lot of you that accepted to the webinar, but if you want another demo, please reach out. I want to thank the panel and all the people who volunteered their time. I really appreciate it. It's super nice, and Jennifer and Chad and your teams and the Reason people. It's pretty clear that people did want to hear about this. They're very interested in going paperless. It's something that is the future, and so making that decision is important. And I appreciate you guys volunteering your time to do this. Thank you, everybody. And at this point, I'm going to send a recording. If you have a friend or whatever, just send me a note or register for the webinar, and I will make sure that you get a copy of, or your friend gets a copy of the webinar, so they can watch it if they want to on their own time. All right. Thanks again. I appreciate it, and have a nice rest of your day.